Welcome to the Reddit Chronicles. Today we will be reading from Confessions. Our first post is by Intelligent Bed. My ex-wife finally started therapy. I'm not happy for her at all. My ex-wife and I had a dramatic 4 years of marriage, to say the least. I don't want to look like I'm pointing the finger at her, but she was legitimately the cause of 99% of our marriage issues. Over these 4 years, I must have told her that she needed therapy dozens of times. I begged. I pleaded. I even called a therapist, described her symptoms, and asked the therapist if she could help. She said that she sounds like she needs a consultation. My wife still refused. When my wife lost her mind and shrieked at me for an hour because I left a pen on the table in the wrong place, I asked her to go to therapy. She refused. When my wife missed my father's funeral because she was so absorbed in her smartphone that she simply forgot, leaving me alone on one of the worst days of my life, I asked her to go to therapy. She refused. When my wife shouted at me on a crowded train and I had to pretend I didn't know her to save myself from the humiliation, I asked her to go to therapy. She refused. The last straw was 6 months ago. My wife started a fight with 2 men in public because they were smoking. I tried to de-escalate. My wife had to just have one more word, about 5 times. I tried to pull her away, and she spat at them. This led to a physical altercation in which I broke 2 ribs. My wife had locked herself in the car as they beat me up. From my hospital bed, I finally told my wife that if she wanted to stay married, she would have to get therapy. She refused. She chose divorce. Our divorce was finalized a month ago. We're still going over several major financial points. Today we had people coming by to see our old house. After they checked it out for a good 30 minutes and left, she told me that she had to go to an appointment. Out of curiosity, I asked what for, to which she responded that she was seeing a therapist. At first I was happy, but then she added, "Tim convinced me to go." Tim. The guy she has been seeing for a couple of months since we separated. The dog trainer, if I'm recalling his profession correctly. In 4 years, dozens of witnessed meltdowns, public humiliation, and 2 broken ribs. I could not do what Tim did in under 60 days. I have no idea what he has that I don't. But now I'm sitting here, likely feeling worse than I did at any point in our marriage. Why didn't she try to salvage things with me? Why did she care so little? Down in the comments, Dubai Dude writes, "Now she's Tim's problem. Enjoy your newly found stress-free life, move on and live your best life." And Times Goes By adds, "Yes this, and well, apparently dog training works for this bee. Take care of yourself, OP." Our next post is by Miserable Cicada. "I'm thinking of breaking up with the guy I'm dating because of the way he puts away carts. We have only been dating for around a month, and everything's great except for the cart thing. We have gone to a few stores together, and I have noticed that when we are done, he will leave the cart in the middle of another parking spot. He refuses to put it away, and gets upset if I decide to go put it away. He says, that's the cart people's job, but like, you're taking up a parking spot by putting your cart there. It's so annoying to me, and I don't understand why, because other than this issue, he checks all my other boxes. He also isn't rude to service workers, but he seems to have a personal vendetta against shopping carts. There was one time this past weekend where we went out and we parked right next to the vestibule, and he refused to put the cart back there and then sulked when I did it. My friends are telling me I'm being irrational, but like, what did shopping carts ever do to him, and why is he so against putting them back? I don't know why it's annoying me so much, but it is." Edit. I didn't expect the response to my post. I was just venting because this cart thing has been something that's been bothering me about this guy, and I just don't know why I can't let it go. I asked him today why he leaves the cart in a parking lot, and he said, "By leaving the cart there, I'm making sure the cart people work hard. If you put a cart back, then you're doing their job for them, and no one should get a free pass." I said, as someone who worked retail when I was younger, it's usually just employees from the store and not designated people. Also, the carts could block someone from parking or even hit someone's car or a person depending on the weather. He said, "Well, if the cart people are doing their job, then that shouldn't happen. These accidents happening are evidence that some of the cart people are slacking off. I asked him why he doesn't have this view towards other service workers, and he said, because you see them working hard. At a restaurant, the server is serving you or the cashier is ringing you up. You don't know that about the cart people. He then, after this insane response, tried to set up another date. I declined and said we are incompatible and should probably see other people because I don't agree with his view of service workers and that it is not his job to make sure strangers are doing their job. He is saying I'm being dramatic and that he will talk to me tomorrow. I'm not fearful of my life or worried in any way. Though his views are absurd, it was a very calm conversation. So it's done and that's it. Also, I don't know why he persistently called them cart people. Our next post is by Happy Marsupial. Tattoo may end my marriage. I recently got a tattoo on my chest to commemorate becoming a father. Initially, I wanted to avoid my nipple getting tattooed because I heard it was a pretty painful spot. The artist told me based on the design it wouldn't look right and would stand out if he didn't tattoo my nipple, making the tattoo look very off. Since this was for my daughter, I opted to go with his wishes and have my nipple tattooed. I had told my wife that wasn't going to be the case when I went in. After the tattoo was finished, I called her and told her that while initially I wasn't planning on getting the nipple covered, the artist recommended it, so I had it done. This blew up into the biggest fight we ever had. She had never told me how adamant she hated a tattooed nipple. If she had, I would not have done it. She had only agreed with my initial thoughts that I wanted to avoid the area. She called me selfish and that I don't think of her or our family when I make decisions, that I acted like I was a bachelor without a family and I should have called her immediately when the plan was being changed so she could give her input. She then told me how she wasn't going to be attracted to me anymore because I'm uneven now and just how much she hates tattooed nipples. Not sure what to do at this point of if there's anything to do. Our relationship was great and full of laughter, and now it's cold. I even felt awkward picking my baby up this morning because the tattoo is for her. Edit to describe tattoo. It's our daughter's name, birthday with a red rose, and a kitten cuddling her cat dad. My nipple is just covered in black ink as background. Our next post is by Child of the Moon. My wedding was ruined. So I'm an extremely laid-back person, and during this entire process of this wedding, haven't had many issues and was just going with the flow. If something needed changed, we did and made it work, and I didn't really stress. I only had a couple things I really wanted at my wedding, and I didn't get a single one of those things. Now I'm grateful for the day, and I got to marry the love of my life and still made the most out of our night because that's just who we are. To start, I'm an eclectic pagan, and my husband is a practicing Hindu. We wanted a hand fasting ceremony and had a pagan priest officiating us until last minute. He had a horrible medical emergency, so I had to improvise. We were made aware less than 40 hours prior. My mother offered her pastor, who she said wanted to do it from the beginning, and was upset I didn't ask him first. I said I didn't want to ask him, because obviously a Christian pastor isn't going to be okay doing what we want, and just out of respect for him, I didn't ask because I'm not going to do that to someone. My mom texted him before I got to talk to my now husband about it, and I felt trapped into having to use him. Again, this all happened over the course of less than 40 hours. We had a meeting and talked through what we were and weren't okay with, and noticed the day of the dress rehearsal, he was skipping over his vows and basically not allowing us to see what he was going to be saying at our wedding. My husband asked him for the script so he could read the vows they were going to be having us say, and the pastor basically refused to show him, saying he didn't need to see them because all he has to do is repeat them. He eventually showed him, but was very reluctant to do so. Obviously, because of our beliefs, we want to see what we will need to be repeating. Sensing that he was about to pull something neither of us would have liked, My husband texted the pastor to let him know we would be doing our own vows and no longer want or need his traditional ones, prayer, etc. He confirmed that he would respect that. The day and moment of the ceremony arrives, and when we get to the altar, that man starts going into how his God intended man and woman and really started emphasizing how straight is great. And my blood began boiling because he knew no one in this wedding party was okay with that. We had several people in our party that identify with LGBT. He made my wedding about his God. I'm not going to lie, after all of this, I was so upset. I drank quite a bit, so I don't remember exact words of what he said. But this man went out of his way shoving God into my wedding, which was not supposed to be. My husband and I cried at the altar for the wrong reasons yesterday. We were disrespected in front of our friends and family. I'm disgusted that he felt it was okay to sabotage my wedding so he could ensure he could speak about his God or make sure we were married in the eyes of his God, when he knew how the bride and groom felt. I have never forced my beliefs on others, and especially not on the most important day of two people's lives. Edit. Our original officiate had a serious medical situation less than 40 hours before the wedding. We had no friends within reasonable driving distance who could officiate for us. The process for getting officiated in that time frame, with no prior knowledge of the customs we wanted, would have been unrealistic in our state given the conditions required. We had already spent thousands for all things related to the ceremony, most of which was not refundable, therefore we could not postpone. The pastor promised us verbatim to not intrude on our preferences and respect our personal belief and relationship with God. The day prior, my husband literally told him that we do not want the traditional vows, prayer, etc., of which he confirmed that he was willing to honor. He did not honor his word. That is the takeaway. There is no fault on us for taking what we were offered and trusting his word. Thank you for listening to the Reddit Chronicles. Follow for more content.